you've said, I mean, technology is essentially destroying the game.
Very much so. Now we come out with a ball that goes 50 yards further than when I played and 80 yards further than when Bobby Jones played. And well, people will say, Gary Player was right. They will change that golf ball. They will have to.
I am James, and this is Golf Relived. The legends of golf are united in one verdict about the modern game, and it is unbearable to watch. What was once a chess match of strategy and precision has turned into a one-dimensional power show where artistry died and distance became king. But how did we get to this point where icons like Nicklaus, Player, Woods, and Watson are calling the current state of professional golf a complete mess? And what does their anger reveal about the future of the sport itself? The criticism is not coming from outsiders or casual fans. This is a chorus of 9 champions who collectively won dozens of majors and defined entire eras of the game. Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Tiger Woods, Tom Watson, Nick Faldo, Johnny Miller, Lee Trevino, Greg Norman, and Ernie Els all agree on one thing. The combination of unregulated equipment technology and hyper-athletic players has rendered traditional golf course architecture meaningless, turned the concept of pair into a joke, and reduced what should be a strategic contest into a brute force bombing competition that threatens the very soul of the sport. And if you want more videos that call out what is really happening in golf, tap hype and give this video some hype right now. The case these legends are building is not just about nostalgia. It is about the integrity of competition and the survival of the game as a test of skill, rather than just raw power. So let me walk you through their arguments, starting from the bottom of the list and working up to the biggest grievance of all. Number 9. Ernie Els says classic golf course design has been made obsolete. Els is a 4-time major champion who won in an era that still demanded precision and strategy. He has been vocal about how the distance arms race has erased the shot values he grew up with. In the traditional game, a par 5 was supposed to require 3 carefully executed shots. The tee shot had to find the fairway. The second shot, often along wood over water or around a dogleg, carried real risk. The third shot demanded touch and accuracy to find the green. Today, Els points out, that entire sequence has been reduced to driver and a short iron. When the second shot into a par 5 is no longer a high-stakes wood over water, but a routine 8-iron, the emotional and technical climax of the hole is completely lost. The meaninglessness of pair in a world where the power play has become the only play is what Els finds most troubling. The architecture that took decades to perfect is now just decoration because players fly over it instead of navigating through it. Number 8. Lee Trevino says modern players have forgotten what creativity looks like. Trevino is perhaps the greatest shot maker in the history of the sport. He built his career on being able to manufacture shots out of difficult lies and use the wind to his advantage. His critique is simple but devastating. Modern players hit the ball a mile, but they lack the creativity that defined the golden era. In Trevino's view, the skill of golf has been redefined in the worst possible way. The ability to shape a shot from left to right or right to left to access a tucked pin position has been replaced by a generation that simply swings as hard as possible and knows the equipment will bail them out. The forgiveness built into modern drivers and balls means that precision is no longer rewarded the way it used to be. You do not need to shape the ball anymore because you can just overpower the hole and fly it all the way to the flag. Trevino sees this as a fundamental loss, not just for the professional game, but for the spirit of golf itself. Number 7. Nick Faldo and Johnny Miller both argue that power golf is killing the art of the game. Faldo and Miller were the leading television analysts of their respective eras, and both consistently made the same point. The integrity of the competitive structure has been ruined by the shift toward brute force distance. Faldo has lamented the loss of shot shaping, which used to be the signature of a great player. In the modern game, the ball is designed to fly straight, and the distance allows players to simply fly it all the way to the hole without needing to interact with the contours of the green or the surrounding terrain. Miller, known for his tell-it-like-it-is style, spent decades arguing that the creativity of the game was being replaced by a mechanical, power-based approach. Both analysts saw the shift happening in real time, and both called it out as a degradation of what made golf compelling to watch. When every hole becomes a simple equation of hit it far and hit it straight, the drama and unpredictability that come from strategic decision-making disappear. Number 6. Greg Norman says pair is irrelevant in the modern context. Norman has long been an advocate for the idea that the game has changed so fundamentally that the old yardsticks no longer apply. He argues that the distance revolution has broken the contract between the player and the course. If a course like TPC Sawgrass was adjusted to reflect modern distances by turning certain par 5s into par 4s, the competitive product might actually improve because it would force players back into a shot value mindset rather than just a distance mindset. Norman's point is that the entire scoring system of golf has been rendered meaningless. When players are reaching reaching 600-yard holes with a driver and a mid-iron, calling it a par 5 is almost dishonest. The game has outgrown its own rules, and par has become a relic of an era when courses could actually defend themselves against the best players in the world. Number 5. Tiger Woods says the modern game does not separate the better ball strikers anymore. This is significant because Woods himself was one of the biggest beneficiaries of the technology boom during his prime. But even he admits that something has been lost. In the era of persimmon woods and balata balls, a strike even half an inch off center would result in a massive loss of yardage and a severe curve. Modern driver heads, which are pushed to the limits of the moment of inertia regulations, provide so much forgiveness that a player can miss the center of the face and still carry the ball 300 yards. Woods illustrated this by recounting an experiment at his home course, Medalist, where he used an old persimmon driver. He found that while he could still carry the ball 290 yards with a perfect strike, the penalty for a miss was catastrophic. The modern game has removed that punishment. At the 2026 Players' Championship, Ludwig Aberg hit a drive that went over 300 yards despite being struck significantly off-center. That moment became the perfect exhibit for the argument that equipment has removed the necessity for precision. Woods has been a long-standing proponent of bifurcation, where professionals and amateurs play by different rules. He compares it to the difference between wooden and aluminum bats in baseball. Woods argues that if you play in a professional event, you should be playing a professional ball while allowing the public to continue using the more forgiving, distance-oriented technology. But the governing bodies rejected that idea in favor of a universal rollback. Number 4. Tom Watson identifies the 2001 introduction of the Titleist Pro F1 as the moment the game changed forever. Prior to the Pro F1, professional golfers used wound liquid center balata balls. These balls were incredibly soft and provided immense spin for shot shaping, but they were also highly volatile. Watson recalls that these balls were often like eggs that would waver in the air if not struck perfectly. The transition to the solid core multi-layer urethane ball allowed for a combination of high launch and low spin, which is the holy grail of distance. When this ball technology was paired with large-headed titanium drivers, the margin for error was drastically widened. The old balata ball punished imperfection. The new ball rewarded even mediocre contact with massive distance. Watson has been lobbying for a rollback for years because he understands that you cannot solve this problem by lengthening courses. The ball is the software, and trying to fix it with more land is a losing battle. Number 3. Gary Player calls the death of the par 5 a tragedy. Player has been perhaps the most vocal critic of how modern distance has distorted the internal logic of a golf course. He characterizes the current state of elite competition as tragic, specifically because the par 5 no longer exists as a 3-shot hole. In the classical era, a par 5 required 2 long, precise shots just to reach the vicinity of the green, with a third shot, often a delicate wedge, required to find the putting surface. Today, Player notes that there is no such thing as a par 5 because elite professionals are routinely reaching 550 to 600 yard holes with a driver followed by a 7-iron or 8-iron. This shift fundamentally changes the scoring dynamics of the game. The eagle has become a routine expectation rather than a rare feat of excellence. Player also points out the staggering economic and environmental cost of trying to keep up with this arms race. He frames this as a global responsibility issue, stating that the hundreds of millions of dollars spent on lengthening golf courses is exorbitant and wasted. Player estimates the global expenditure on lengthening courses to be around $100 million annually. He argues these funds should be reallocated to underrepresented communities to encourage diversity in the sport, or to essential social services like schools and hospitals. The push for longer courses also correlates with increased resource consumption. Larger acreages of turf grass require millions of additional gallons of water, which is a critical concern in an era of global water shortages. Clubs must also use more fertilizer and pesticides to maintain championship-level conditioning across massive properties, leading to higher maintenance budgets and environmental runoff concerns. Player sees this as wasteful and unsustainable. Number 2. The governing bodies announced a rollback, but the legends remain deeply skeptical. After years of lobbying from Nicholas, Watson, and others, the USGA and R&A finally announced a universal rollback of the golf ball set to begin in 2028 for professionals and 2030 for amateurs. This was not the preferred bifurcation model that Tiger Woods and Gary Player supported, but rather a wholesale change to the ball's manufacturing standards. The new testing speed of 125 miles per hour, up from 120 miles per hour, is designed to ensure that the fastest players see the biggest reductions in distance. For a player like Rory McIlroy, the rollback is expected to result in a 12 to 15 yard loss, while the average amateur might only lose a single yard. The problem is that the legends do not think this goes far enough. enough. Nicholas has stated that he believes the governing bodies are never going to bring it back to the level they need to bring it back to in order to truly restore the integrity of the sport. His critique of the 2028 rollback plan is that it is essentially throwing a deck chair off the Titanic. He argues that a 12 to 15-yard reduction for the longest hitters is an insufficient reining in of the ball, given that players like McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau have already pushed the boundaries of what was once thought physically possible. The governing bodies opted for a universal approach to maintain the tradition of the game being played under one set of rules for all, but this decision has been met with mixed reviews. The legends see it as an admission that something is wrong, but also as too little too late. There is a counter-argument worth acknowledging. Bryson DeChambeau and the modern generation offer a spirited defense of the current state of the game. DeChambeau argues that the legends are failing to give credit to human performance. He asserts that driver technology has actually changed very little since 2009, and that the surge in distance is the result of athleticism and the use of technology like launch monitors to maximize efficiency. DeChambeau points to the fact that average driving distances on the PGA Tour increased by 15 yards between 2009 and 2025, from 287.9 to 302.8 yards. He attributes this increase to clubhead speed and athletic ability rather than illegal equipment. DeChambeau also criticizes what he sees as a double standard. He notes that when he wins, he is called a genius, but when he struggles, his equipment is labeled a failed experiment. He argues that the governing bodies are at a crossroads, and that rolling back the ball will ultimately hurt the game's growth by making it less fun for kids who want to hit the ball far. But the legends have a rebuttal. Even if modern athletes are better and work harder in the gym, the sport still needs limits, so that strategy matters. Golf is not just about who can hit it the farthest. It is supposed to be about who can think their way around a course and execute the right shot at the right time. Without those limits, the game devolves into a one-dimensional contest that is less interesting to watch and less meaningful to play. And number 1, Jack Nicklaus says the modern ball obliterates golf course architecture, and the consequences go far beyond just the professional game. Nicklaus has repeatedly stated that the modern ball allows players to carry their drives over the very features that were meant to dictate play. When a player can bypass a complex fairway bunker system or a doglegs corner with ease, the architect's intent is effectively erased. What was supposed to be a cerebral contest of navigation turns into a simple exercise in verticality. Traditionally, a golf course was designed as a series of strategic puzzles, where hazards were positioned at specific yardages to force a player to choose between risk and reward. That entire framework has been destroyed. The response from major championship venues has been to lengthen the courses, a process known as tiger proofing. Augusta National is the most prominent example. Since Tiger Woods' historic 1997 victory, the course has been lengthened by over 500 yards. But as Woods himself has observed, there is simply not enough property anymore to continue this expansion. Tom Watson and Gary Player have both pointed out that the 13th hole at Augusta, one of the most strategically perfect holes in the world, was forced to undergo significant modification, including the acquisition of neighboring land just to remain a relevant test. This constant expansion is viewed by the legends as a futile attempt to solve a software problem, the ball, with a hardware solution, the land. The paradox of lengthening courses is that it often plays into the hands of the very players it seeks to challenge. By moving tee boxes back, shorter hitters who were already at a disadvantage are forced to hit long irons or woods into par 4s, while the longest hitters merely shift from a wedge to a mid-iron. This magnifies the advantage of power rather than neutralizing it. Nicklaus also points out that longer courses take longer to play, and time is one of the primary reasons people are leaving the game. Furthermore, the cost to play, driven up by the maintenance of these massive courses, makes golf less accessible to the average person. The argument is that by rolling back the ball for everyone, the game could return to smaller, more efficient footprints that are cheaper and faster to maintain and play. This does not just hit the professionals, it hits your weekend round too. So where does this leave the game? If nothing changes or if the rollback proves insufficient, the future looks bleak. Courses will continue chasing length forever. Par will become even sillier. Come even, the creativity and shot making that defined the golden era will disappear entirely. Professional golf will become a repetitive power display where the outcome is determined on the range rather than on the course. But there is hope. The rollback is at least an admission that something is wrong. It is a recognition that the sport cannot sustain this trajectory. The legends are not asking for the game to go backward. They are asking for it to move forward in a way that preserves what made it great in the first place. Bring back the shot making. Bring back the risk-reward decisions. Protect the classic courses that are architectural masterpieces. Keep golf fun and smart, not just long and loud. The game is at a crossroads, and the choice is clear. Either rein in the power revolution and restore strategic integrity, or watch the sport drift further away from the principles that made it the great game that it is. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Do you think the rollback goes far enough, or should they have gone with bifurcation? What does real golf mean to you? Let me know, and I will see you in the next one.